the talk on legal recourse for women against cyber offenses.
We have an evolving legal framework and a system. So why I'm starting on this note is because very recently we've had changes in our criminal law framework. The CRPC, the IPC, and the Indian Evidence Act, which was there for a long time in India, has now completely been overhauled by new legislations like the BNS, the BNSS, and the BSA. So we saw a lot of change in terms of the current landscape in India. And while a lot of these offenses like cyber stalking, for example, we find under the BNS, which has been dealt with by 3 years of imprisonment or fine or more, there are certain other offenses like intimidation with 2 years of punishment. And if you see morphing, for example, that's again punishable offense, and that's something again like up to 3 years of imprisonment, fine or more. The same offenses sometimes are also defined by the special law in the country, which is the Information Technology Act. And there we find sections like 66C and D, which talk about identity theft or cheating by personation, and have a punishment of about 3 years of imprisonment, fine or more. Then we have cases which are of the category where sexual harassment is meted out, and where sexual explicit content, images or videos are created. Now those are obviously invasion of privacy. So we have a separate section for invasion of privacy, which is 66E of the IT Act. Again, punishment up to 3 years of imprisonment, fine or more. And we find in terms of sexual explicit content, about 5 years of imprisonment has been given as a provision. Now, those cases are the sexual content cases. Then there is a defamation section under the BNS, and again, up to 2 years of imprisonment, fine or more. We also have, provisions for hacking. There are a lot of times when, even in cases where I've seen fake identity theft cases, there are also cases which are involving not only one kind of an offense, but there are multiple offenses involved. For example, in a case of a social media fraud, for instance, or a matrimonial site or a dating site, there could be also a hacking attempt where a virus has been sent through a particular link or a particular suspicious email, and once the woman clicks on it, her entire device is infected by a keylogger, which makes it almost like a CCTV. Everything she's typing on the laptop is available for the hacker to see, even the OTP is on the phone. So this is the level of, I would say, vulnerability one can have if one doesn't maintain due diligence and prudence on the net. So therefore, the importance of having such discussions is, can't be underscored at this point. And the rise in I would say digital arrest cases, for example, if you see the digital arrest cases, also a lot of women have also been, targeted for digital arrest. And I've dealt with many cases where women, for example, have been duped through phishing attacks or wishing attacks or smishing attacks. Now these are all hybrid terms, but essentially somebody is impersonating as someone else, maybe a banker or an insurance broker or someone, and then the woman really believes that this is a genuine call, and she gives away her credentials or her personal sensitive information, and the monies are siphoned off the next minute. So these are very rampant frauds, and of late, fake courier scams, fake job scams, work from home scams, and there are n number of these kind of crimes percolating in the cyberspace. So what one must do, there are also cases, where sextortion is, for example, there is a estranged relationship with somebody. She may have shared certain pictures which were private to her earlier, and those have been, threat. I mean, it's been a threat to her that they will be published online or on any particular forum. Obviously, there will be a criminal intimidation in such a case. So those kind of cases are also being dealt with, and they are being registered under the current laws in India. So if you see the kind of threats, most of them happen to be anonymous. Nobody will say who is writing or who is behind a particular crime, and most of them are also happening with email boxes which are self-destructible. So the technology is being misused by these criminals to conduct or commit these kind of crimes. There's a huge landscape. You'll understand that. I mean, you'll agree with me that there are n number of variations and there are n number of offenses which are there in the cyberspace today. Now, I haven't talked about all of them, but if you see child pornography, if you see child pornography is yet another issue, and grooming, that's something which is punishable with up to 5 years of imprisonment, fine or more. Then we also have cases where POXO could be involved, where it's a girl child, and I've seen those cases, dealt with some of the sexual harassment cases, grooming cases there also. And there are huge rackets. With Kerala police, for example, I was looking at certain investigations where certain softwares have been deployed to track and make correlation graphs of which countries are involved in these rackets. So it's that kind of level of sophistication which they deploy, and then that kind of level of sophistication required to actually unravel and resolve those kind of crimes. So it's very, very complex in that space, and it's getting more complex with blockchain being, in the offing. Then there's AI, and there are deep fakes and n number of technologies, emerging tech today. So therefore, the dialogue about ethical compliance and ethical values should be there. Humanitarian approach to use of AI. Coming back to the law, DPDP is definitely a big, I would say, a milestone which is there for India. So our private information is be kept private, and that's a big, I would say, development, and ensures the right to be forgotten, ensures the fundamental right of privacy is respected, both for with private and I would say public entities coming under its scope. Now, where to report? 1930 is a national helpline, and cybercrime.gov.in is the national cybercrime reporting portal. And in terms of redressal, when the complaint is filed, you can even file it anonymously. And for child pornography related things, it is mandatory to report. It's important that your information can be kept anonymous on these reporting portals, and also won't be put up in media. The name of the child won't be put up in media. You can have in camera proceedings to maintain secrecy and confidentiality. It doesn't have to be in open court either. And the level of redress that you get is not only see the writing to the grievance redressal officer, for example, of a social media platform has succeeded in many cases where there's an immediate takedown or blocking of the required content. There are times when we have to go to courts and we have sought injunction orders and we've got them. There has been a blocking direction given by the courts, and very happy to say that we have dynamic injunction orders. So even if it's one clip which is on several URLs, it can be blocked through one order. You don't have to move to court each time a new URL is created. So that's again a big development in terms of law. There are criminal remedies, there are civil remedies. You can go for compensation. So in this way, there is a lot that can be done, provided we act, provided we report. So my take on this is, or rather, I would encourage women to report cybercrime, and that's very, very important for us. And I, in the end, would like to say that prevention is obviously better than cure. So I always encourage women to maintain cyber vigilance, be empowered citizens, very careful in what you post, because once it's there, it's very difficult to delete content from the web totally, because there is a footprint. And avoid sharing and content which one doesn't want to be in the public domain. Adopt vigilance when clicking on any links. That's something which I always say. And don't trust just any caller who would call and say they may pose as someone, because that is social engineering, and a lot of women fall prey to that. And that's something we need to understand, that if there is crime offline, there is more crime online. So you have to be, your safety lies in your own hands. So just have that power within you, and don't trust anyone without any proper verification. So in the end, I feel on this important occasion of Women's Day, I my personal message to all women who are here in this forum and otherwise has been that one must believe in oneself. And I know that we shoulder a lot of responsibility both at home and in our office spaces. and organizations we build. So one has to be always having faith in your own thoughts and actions and wisdom. And there is sky's the limit for women. They can really achieve a lot provided they believe in themselves, and they persevere. Because in our patriarchal society that we have and has been in India, I think all women who lead and inspire today have also had their own struggles, and they're continuing to have. But the important takeaway is that one has to fight fear, or one has to fight fear within, and nobody, no woman is incomplete. I feel that we must realize a lot of women I have seen, and I have dealt with many clients, and I've seen the psychological trauma they've gone through when they have, suffered from these kind of crimes. My job there is not just as a lawyer there, and I try, to tell them that, look, you have to overcome. There are challenges in everybody's life, big or small, but the idea is to overcome them and face it. And then that's how you reach out for your dreams, because a lot of women give up especially in mid career. I think we would have all seen that happen in every walk of life, in fact every field of life. So a lot of women do that, but I would encourage them to take up, any hobby or any profession they'd like, and that's something which they must believe that then they will have God power with them. So it's important for them to realize the intrinsic values and the intrinsic, I would say, confidence that they themselves, have it within them. So be self-assured, be self-reliant, and just self-validated. That's how I feel about, what I'd like to convey. And with that, Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your inspirational and motivational words, and also for explaining how law can come to the aid of netizens, especially women, in case of possible cyber offenses and crimes, and the possible punishments which can happen in case they report, and the ways of redressal, and also for emphasizing the need to act for redressal and also prevention. Thank you once again.
Ma'am, I have a question to Madam, though it's a short time because in the benefit of the audience. Ma'am, these days we are seeing many a times that many girl students and even women also are having many issues with some online friends or people coming to different social networking channels, and they're not finding a way to actually take action against those online friends. Some people are creating accounts, creating some kind of havoc to the girl, and they're deleting the accounts. So in such case, what should we suggest we to the members that how they can actually approach law and how they can trace out that particular person who have created issue to them?
So two things on this. One is that our intermediary guideline rules have been, framed in the country, wherein even the VPN providers or the data centers, these email service providers, they all have to keep content for about 5 years, which is a good time frame. So any data which is, when any account which is created by them, they have to keep the KYC. They have to know who the subscriber is, even though they may have privacy protect features, but when it comes to law enforcement, they have to share data. So that's one. Second is that whenever something like this happens, it needs to be reported. Unless they report it, there will not be any action. So in those kind of cases, it's important to report, and then once the legal machinery is, invoked, and the cases happen in the courts, they can certainly get the legal redressal they need in this scenario, and there will be compensation, there will be injunction orders, passed by courts to get that account holders details, and there have been many cases where this has succeeded. Now, one aspect is there are a lot of women feel this is a myth actually. A lot of women feel that all the messages that they are getting, or any kind of accounts where Instagram, I've handled these cases where Instagram has a short, maybe a short, like on Facebook also, 24-hour, the photo will be there to defame, or there will be a morphed picture or otherwise. So the best thing to do in such a scenario is the moment you find something which is illegal, take a picture, save the screenshots, because once it gets deleted, how will you prove that something like this has happened? What we encourage them to do is take printouts, take screenshots, because that is evidence which will be admissible in the court of law. There's a procedure of collection, there's a procedure of producing that in court. We usually file a section 65B certificate, now a 63 BNS certificate, BSA certificate, sorry, in the Evidence Act. And therefore, you can produce this in the court, and the courts will take action based on that evidence. So a lot of time women feel that only an SMS or only a particular phone call. They can record phone calls. They are getting threats on phone. If anything suspicious has been sent, take a screenshot, and that account, that handle, everything can be mapped, whatever is their evidence, and that can be utilized for further investigation.